This is my response to the Young Turks, specifically Cenk and his views on their recent video on sexual harassment against men, and why I wholeheartedly disagree with Cenk's conclusions. Sexual harassment is, by definition, the abuse of power by someone in authority, whether it is their status or a perceived stronger position that they hold for whatever reason. It is not an issue of which sex is doing it. This is irrelevant. It is the exploitation of one person's position in order to harass another person, and the form it takes happens to be sexual. It is not about sex. It is about abuse of position. Talking about enjoying sexual harassment is like talking about enjoying bullying, or, more extremely, enjoying rape. These incidents are, by definition, something done without your consent and in a way that harms you. There is no situational aspect to them where you might enjoy them. By definition, you don't. That's what they are. Sadly, Cenk does not seem to have considered this when giving his view, as he even says at one point, "If I were in a situation where a woman was making me uncomfortable, then it might not be so bad." This is nonsensical. If you are uncomfortable with that situation, you wouldn't be enjoying it. What if a woman you worked with were continually pestering you for attention in a way that you know your wife wouldn't appreciate, and when you told her to knock it off, she said you were just playing hard to get? How would you feel when the text messages, cards, and arrivals at your house start? Flattered? Pleased someone is showing an interest? In the context of the workplace, sexual harassment and friendly banter between colleagues is not the same thing, and I have created a Venn diagram here to distinguish clearly between what are often separate but overlapping issues, some problematic, some not. Being able to talk about sex openly, having a sense of humour, and people feeling victimised enough to resort to a lawsuit are very separate things. As a feminist, and as a masculinist, I think men and women should be treated equally, and to the same standard, with individual preference and situation taken into perspective, of course. I have to say, I'm slightly shocked at how Cenk in this video doesn't seem to share this view for his own gender. He also contradicts himself by saying in some parts of the video that of course it's unacceptable to behave this way, whichever gender you are, and the same standards should be applied equally. But it is obviously just a line he feels he needs to trot out by nature of his liberal position. At the end of the video, he makes extremely clear he thinks that any man who experiences discomfort at abuse of power is weak. I wonder if he also thinks that such a man deserves their suffering as a result. Sadly, his view is part of the patriarchy that surrounds our society, where traditional, strong, male values are held up as the correct way to do things, even when they're not in the best interests of everyone concerned. It is those values that cause women to be abused by men because they think they can, and it's those same values that make men abuse other men too. Cenk is also perpetrating a pretty big act of solipsism and stating that because he can't imagine something like that, it couldn't really be a problem. He even goes as far as to say that he's never experienced this problem, so how bad can it really be? This is a hollow argument, because using that logic, no man could ever, or would even need to, consider the rights and concerns of women, or vice versa. Furthermore, we live in a society of people comprised of more than ourselves, and we cannot simply use our own personal experiences as a template for deciding how other people should feel about a situation. I've personally worked in an environment where the issue was not sex, but rather a banter dynamic that required people to make fun of each other in a way that felt like we were at college again. Sometimes it was funny, sometimes it wasn't, but ultimately I felt like I didn't have much option in participating, as I was physically located with other people who were doing it together and at me, whether I participated or not. The only way I found that I could stop it was by requesting a change of desk, and I don't see why it was some failing on my part to not be prepared to suffer through something I didn't enjoy. I further don't understand why any man should be willing to go through something unnecessary to his job that he doesn't wish to, and the inclusion of the word sex into the subject doesn't change that. In closing, I would say that this is an issue of power and abuse of it, and how traditional masculine values, the very same ones that Cenk is espousing, it would seem unwittingly, help create a world in which we are all miserable. The correct response is not ridicule and dismissal of the issue as trivial, but a simple application of the golden rule. Never impose on others what you would not choose for yourself. This is Illuminati Primus saying, thank you for watching.